This week's video is going to be quite cool. It's something that, just adjusting the screen there, it's something that, I'm having a cup of tea. It's something that businesses don't get right very often. And when they do, magic happens. So just a reminder what I'm doing over this next 6 weeks, talking about teamwork in your business. And my proposition is that coming out of the pandemic, the one thing that we have learned, and hopefully you've learned that too, is that if we act collectively, we can do amazing things. If we can do that in the community, but it's exactly the same with your business. And for you, it's this opportunity of improving the way your people interact with one another, work with one another, to harness the skills and amazing abilities they've got to work collectively. What I'm going to share with you today is the third video in that, which is how do you get alignment between levels of leaders. So last week I talked about the top leadership team and the clarity and the multiplier effect, the clarity, teamwork, and the multiplier effect. This week, what I'm going to talk about is getting levels between leaders. So without further ado, let me share that with you. And let's just put that up so you can see it. So here's the plan. The proposition here is that whether we get the vaccine or not, whether we're able to work virtually, whether we continue to work virtually, or whether we continue or we go back to the way things were. I don't think we will go back to the way things were, but you know what I mean. That you can improve your business and the way your levels of leaders work with one another regardless. And you can do that with my help, or you can do it yourself. I don't really mind. But what I'm sharing is how I go about it, what the approach is, and what the steps are. Week 1, what we covered was how to identify the teamwork blockages. Let's just highlight that for you, which is about identifying the business problem and the teamwork problem. Last week, I talked about getting your top leadership team working on collective goals and how to get them firing together. And this week, I'm talking about creating alignment between your levels of leaders. So you can see all the work we've done so far. That's the model from last week. The plan for this week is, talking about alignment between your levels of leaders. So I'm basically going to do this in 2 ways. First of all, I'm going to talk about what the traditional problem is. There's 2 main problems that you want to solve. And then the second is the principles to go about it, and then the action plan, how to kind of what to do. So the first challenge is this, which is that even if you do what I say, I recommend, which is that you invest in your leadership team, you end up with 2 things. Instead of that top leadership team being a disparate group of people where there's disconnects between them, if you work on alignment and you work on the relationships, what you get is one team. And like I talked about last week, what we want to achieve out of that is a collective sense of them being a multiplier for the organization. Now, you can achieve this. You can achieve this even if you're an organization of 12, where the top 3 of you are aligned and clear. And in some ways, it's easier. You guys would say it's easier because you don't have the politics and the number of stakeholders. But the idea is the same, yeah. Let me just change that video a bit, that position a little bit. So once you've got that, here's the thing, is you've then got the rest of your organization. And 2 problems. One is that there's a huge perceived distance, and it's often worse in small organizations. And sorry for ducking down because I'm writing on my iPad here. Let me move that over so it's less annoying. then I can talk directly to you, is the distance here, the distance between the levels. So L1 are a multiplier. They're firing, they're aligned, they know what's going on. And then L2, these are your next level of leaders, the most important people after the top leaders. And your L3 leaders. And by the way, why I call them L is short for level. So it's just a quick way for me to go, okay, who are the sort of second most important people and the third most important people? And they're going, you know what, there's something kind of cool going on up there, but we got no idea what their goals are, what they're doing. So off they go, they can do with it. They can go and do their own thing. So what happens is the first problem is there's this big distance between where the top team are at and where the rest of the organization is at. The second thing is that as you start to work on the top team, what happens is that these relationships get strong between people and, like I've drawn, across within the team. But the L2 and L3 group, they don't have any of this sense of community, any of this sense of alignment. So our challenge is twofold, right? Our challenge is to build this connectivity, so between L1 and L2 and L3. And our challenge is also to build the connections, if I draw it like this, between the individuals at these layers. Because if we get community at the top, we get connection at the top, we get alignment at the top, and then we get community at the bottom, we've got this magic multiplier effect, not just at the top level, which is what I talked about last week, but within the whole system. And so when you've heard me before, talked about collective leadership, this is what I mean. Okay. So we're trying to solve two problems. We're trying to bridge the distance and we're trying to create community in that L1, L3 level. Now, just before I go on in terms of recommendations, just want you to stop. Sorry, my head's been cut off there. Let me go. You can see the picture. Just let me stop. Have a think about your organization. How aligned are the levels underneath you? How committed are they, like your top leadership team? That's assuming your top leadership team are committed. Ask yourself the question. Now, if you want to do something about that, here's what I recommend. Is too often what I see at the top level is that when the top leadership team come out with a strategy or a new way of working or an insight about their market, or they want to take the organization in a new direction, they've got an innovation or a disruptive viewpoint that they want to, product they want to take to market, they communicate one way. Okay, so they think about communication as a one-way exercise. And you know, in your own families and with your own friends, what it's like when someone communicates to you one way. Most of the time, it feels like, you're not part of it. You're not part of creating it, so why should you be part of delivering it? So with your communication, I highly recommend that you focus on conversation, not on communication. Now, one of the clients I've worked with before, there's a quarterly, one of the things they do is with their L2, L3 leaders, and a lot of organizations do this. They have, a QBR, a business review. Such a boring name. I think it could be such a better name. But anyway, either way, I think if they're getting all those groups of people together, and a lot of organizations have a community of that level of people. The thing that's important at those events is not blasting things at them, but getting people connecting and having conversations around important topics. The purpose of this video is not to tell you how. If you want to talk about how, I can talk more about you offline, book it some time to talk about it. But the purpose of this is to say that you want to optimize conversation, not communication. And then the second thing I would recommend, so that's number one. So that doing that helps you bridge the distance between the problem I talked about, between your top leadership team and your two other layers. And then the second thing I would recommend is this. You want to put into place programs that build connections within and between your layers. So at one of my clients, we've been doing a regular program over the last 3 years where at this L2 and L3 layer, they learn together in community groups. And they learn about leadership. And we do that each year. And then over time, oops, let's make that bigger. What we've built is this huge community. Some people have left, that's what happens. Other people have joined that are ready and bright. They're a leadership community. And they've all been taught similar things in similar ways. So that now, right now in their organization, the L1 team want to make a change. They want to go in a different direction. And they've got this big community of people over here that are right and ready to help out. Obviously they've got their day jobs and things to do, but they've been trained and ready to participate in what's ahead. So just to summarize, what I'm saying today is that the first step is identifying the problem around teamwork. The second step is where that teamwork blockage is. And then getting your top team aligned with clarity and teamwork, and then starting to work on, the next step is starting to work on alignment between L1 and L3 leadership levels. Two problems: the distance between the top team and the other layers. And the second is the fact that there's no sense of community within that L2, L3 community group. Let's not say community twice. And then the recommendations is whatever regular way you have of getting them together, focus on conversation, not on just one-way communication, and put programs in place that build that group of people as a community. Now, you can do that yourself. It's a regular thing you do, but it massively pays off in your organization. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. If you need help with any of this, implementing it, you want to talk to me about your organization, where you're at, just send me a message, let me know, and we can book that in, and I would love to talk with you further. Talk soon. Cheers. Bye.